and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this week I went out to see the new film My Cousin Rachel. There was kind of two films out, The Mummy and My Cousin Rachel, and The Mummy didn't get great reviews and My Cousin Rachel is more my type of film, so I decided to go for that one this week and do something a little less blockbustery. This film is directed by Roger Mitchell, who has done some films in the past like Notting Hill and Morning Glory, some really kind of uplifting, kind of beautiful, soft films. And it's starring Rachel Weisz and Sam Claflin. This film is set in the 1850s, so it's definitely a strong period piece. The storyline basically follows a young man who inherits his cousin's fortune, a cousin who has looked after him since he was a young boy. When he believes that a woman that his cousin has married is the woman who has murdered him, he plots his own revenge against her. And as the film goes on, his feelings for her become much more complicated.
Whatever it cost my cousin in pain and suffering before he died, I will return in full measure upon the woman that caused it.
So yeah, Sam Claflin plays the young boy and Rachel Weisz plays the cousin Rachel. It kind of starts off with these, what we imagine to be flashbacks and a voiceover. It kind of becomes a lot more complex as the film goes on. We learn more about those flashbacks. I found that the opening scene was very confusing. I was unsure of what was happening. We had Sam Claflin doing a voiceover explaining about the fact that his cousin took him in, and then there was all these shots of a man with a child, but that man was played by Sam Claflin, so you were like, oh, Sam Claflin is also playing his cousin and himself. It was a very confusing situation, and I was sat there thinking, I have no idea what's going on, but keep going, sure it'll get better. This is basically a story of love, mistrust, lies, obsession and doubt. This is what you kind of expect from a 19th century piece. So you've got Sam Claflin playing the character of Philip, and he is out for revenge against his cousin Rachel, who he believes has killed his cousin. There's a lot of cousins in this film. His cousin Ambrosia. The storyline does appear simple, but it kind of goes on ups and downs of really understanding where this storyline is heading and what it actually means. As I said, the beginning was quite confusing, so I felt that I was a bit unsettled before the film had even started. I do think that the main two characters were very strong. Rachel Weisz plays this character really wonderfully. She's a bit skitsy. She kind of goes from being very intense to being very floaty and very girly. Plenty of other minor characters throughout this film as well, but yet again I found that they didn't really add much to the storyline. Especially in the first half, because you do feel like Rachel and Philip are your two main focus, and you feel like throughout the film that's all you're going to be focused on. Other characters come into play and they become more important as the film goes on, but mainly you are looking at those two. I mean, I'm sure this isn't a spoiler, because if you've seen the trailer, you kind of see that Philip and Rachel come into romantic feelings for each other. This was obviously expected, but I did find that it didn't fit. There was a massive lack of passion for me in this film, which I kind of got. I didn't watch all of the trailer, I watched a little snippet because I don't really like trailers. But I did find that it looked like it was going to be such a passionate film. It didn't really stand to tell, it kind of washed out. There was moments of it, but it was very half-hearted. However, that kind of makes me feel like it was fitting. Obviously, you get the sense that there's a reason why these people shouldn't be together. There is this conflict there. And although I feel like in the trailer it's highlighted that it's because they're cousins, it's not particularly because they're cousins. It's more that the person who raised him, he was married to her, and that's more the issue. I guess in that time, actually, cousins marrying each other happened a lot. And if you've watched other period pieces from this era, then you will know that that happens all the time. People are always, you've got a cousin coming in, it's like, here's your cousin. He's like, oh, can I marry you? And I'm just thinking, really? So between the two of them, I did want there to be a lot more natural passion, which there wasn't. It was very conflicting. But I think I understand that that was probably the intention. And if so, that was done very well. It's clear that Philip has a lot more passion. But then again, he is playing a younger character, she's a lot older, so you kind of get this balance of this woman who is more mature and more understanding, more developed, and he's still very boyish, he's very frantic and he's very open about his emotions. Rachel is a woman of beauty, she turns heads in this film, but her character is very unsettling. We know that there is a hidden mystery behind her, and that's what the film is about. It's about uncovering that mystery of who she is and what are in her intentions. Is she a murderer? Do we trust her? Or is she just an innocent victim to something much larger? We don't understand her intentions, and the black clothing is reflective of that. I think it was chosen in an obvious choice because she is mourning. She wears black clothing in all the scenes. But it's also because there's this dark mystery that hides behind her, and the black clothing reflects that constantly throughout the film. You don't particularly get much relief from that, apart from in scenes when she is in her bedroom and she's wearing white clothing, where she is more vulnerably innocent in a way.
I've been doing a little asking around. She's notorious. Do you understand?
The settings in this film are second to none. I celebrate the cinematographer's work in this. He's called Mike Ely, and I really liked his cinematography in this film. The editing was fine, it was very natural, nothing particularly interesting or too complex. Certain angles and certain shots, especially in Italy at the beginning, where it was just kind of breathtaking, and I was more intrigued by that than the storyline itself near the beginning. Claflin's character, Philip, there is a huge arc. We see him go through very many stages of his personality. He starts off as a simple boy, he enjoys the countryside, he goes away to the city and returns home because the country is where he feels like he belongs. We see that he's a very simple, he needs for not much kind of character. He becomes needier. He becomes more interested in a wife, which near the beginning we know that he is not interested at all. He values his cousin above all things. His cousin being Ambrosia, not Rachel. So many cousins. He becomes whiny and needy and desperate for the attention of his cousin. He is rattled with self-doubt, and he just goes deeper and deeper into this state till we are kind of exhausted and we don't actually know if he's going to be able to pull himself out of it. And that's kind of where the gothic storyline comes from, the fact of not being able to escape the storyline. A lot of the production design is very gothic, especially Rachel's clothing. It's all black, and within the house, although scenes are lightened at certain points by certain characters, there's a lot of darkness as well in a lot of the rooms, and a lot of the architecture and the props themselves are very gothic themed. And although there's traits of the gothic, I wanted it to be so much more gothic. I think I wanted it to be more on levels with Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, where you've kind of got that mysterious, shadowy kind of figure of something just hidden in the background, whereas this film, it's quite obvious. You kind of see why it's gothic. You're not mysteriously looking for why it's so gothic. And I definitely think the storyline of really pushing a kind of forbidden love, which I believe is kind of what they suggested in the trailers, it's not particularly about that, and that storyline does fall a little bit flat. Also, the ending is brutally confusing. I can't go into it because trying to explain it is too confusing, and I also don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen the film yet. But it doesn't particularly match the genre at all. So I did have a few issues with the storyline compartments of this. However, the acting was really wonderful. Like I said, the shots, the editing, direction, it was all quite well done. I think it was more the storyline that I wasn't sold on. But it was I think it was based on a 1950s book. It was a book that was written for an era 100 years before that. So I guess in a way maybe that's what it was more reflecting. It was reflecting a kind of a 1950s idea of an 1850s society or an 1850s storyline and character. So I don't feel like it had the right balance. But I think if you enjoy your period pieces like I do, which is why I was so interested in this film, it's definitely one to watch. It's different to the rest, that's for sure. So if you like my review, give it a big thumbs up. Comment below any films that you really want me to review. Also comment below if you do want me to do a Mummy review, because I will go and see it and I will review it. But it has been out for a bit now, and I kind of think there's probably a lot of reviews out there about it, and they haven't been that great, so I wasn't as worried about doing it. Also, subscribe to my channel because there will be another review coming next week. What films are out next week? I might have to do a different video for next week, because I don't actually think there's any films coming out this week. I think my next one is going to be Transformers and like Baby Driver. I think they're the next films to be out that I'm interested in looking at. I don't think I'll review Despicable Me 3. Subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about.